Joining me now on the Knicks Film School Podcast as we discuss the potential end of one of the pervasive social media apps of our time. Oh boy. We'll see. He is a returning guest, of course. He loves to come on here and anger people just because he just wants people to be angry. That's it. That's all he wants to do.
Not true. Well, maybe a little true.
He covers the New York Giants for the New York Giants. John Schmeelk. Hello, sir.
Hey, what's up, guys? I got my, this is the Patrick Ewing jersey retirement shirt that I bought. I got probably like 20 years ago now. One of the few sporting events I've actually literally shed a tear at. I did that night. That was an unbelievable night.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that not February of 2003?
Yeah, I think that sounds about right. Yeah.
I don't want to, man. I don't want to throw my dad under the bus, but I'm gonna do it anyway. He was like a month or two before that. He's like, "Hey, I got tickets for the Ewing retirement jersey, the jersey retirement game." I'm like, "Awesome!" And then like the day before, he's like, "Yeah, the tickets fell through. Sorry, we're not going." I'm like, son of a yeah.
See, the beauty of that night and why it was so emotional is that, there was a large group of Knicks fans at the time that really wanted to trade Ewing. They thought, "Oh, we're better without him. Canby, Sprewell, blah blah blah," which was all nonsense. It was just Knicks fans not understanding what they had. But by the time they did the jersey retirement, everyone realized that perhaps the Shandon Anderson, Howard Isley, Clarence Weatherspoon era was not going to be as good as the Patrick Ewing era. And they were actually like, dude, like the whole 30-minute ceremony was, dude, our bad. Like, we're sorry. We love you. And it kind of just made everything better.
It's wild. I don't know why I was thinking about this the other day because these are the things that I think about in my spare time. But like the Knicks, since Ewing left, have had both of you, correct me if I'm wrong. Andrew's here in the background. He may chime in at some point. One player finish even in the top 10 in MVP voting. Two players. So Melo was third, and then Randle ended up finishing eighth, right?
Did Stoudemire ever finish top 10? No.
Because I think he fell off so much at the end of that. He was like on pace to finish probably top 5 that year. So the reason I bring that up is, of course, if you go look at what Patrick Ewing did, the man finished top 5, 6 times over the course of. Andrew, you're pointing at me. You have something else?
Amari Stoudemire finished 9th in 2011. Okay. So good call, Schmeelk.
Good job by you.
Good job.
Good job by you. So, yeah.
Thanks, Mikey.
So six top 5 finishes. And it's crazy because I think in New York, maybe not us, but like some people get on him for like, oh, he was never the best. He could never go. But like, man, he was top 5. We don't know what that's. We have one guy that's finished top 5 since he left. One in 20 plus years.
One thing I've learned, John, I know football is a little different than basketball. One game, no series and all that stuff and, parity, blah, blah, blah. But if your guy's good enough to get you in the conversation every year, don't take that for granted. Like if you're in the conference finals, even every year, one bounce of a ball here or there can make all the difference. One PJ Brown flipping Charlie Ward under the bat, take your pick. Like if you can just get in the conversation every year, that's good enough. It's good enough for me.
And it's so, it's good transition to talking about this current team, which, as this is as positive a moment as I think we've had as a Knicks fan community in a while. It feels really, even as crazy as the bad was, Sunday? So like 4 days ago, it feels really good now, but it does put it in perspective that we're going to get on here and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff that ultimately is, what do you want to call window dressing or like little the things here and there that it's not going to amount to anything big because we don't have a Patrick Ewing, but that's fine.
Well, John, if you want, we could talk big picture stuff first if you want, and then get into the minutia. Do you want to do it that way?
Yeah, fine. Let's do that. I mean, the last time we talked was pre-Mitchell trade, right?
It was it was pre-Mitchell. It was July, I believe.
And we went through. We basically did. How about this? We did what I think the Knicks front office actually did, which was haggled and haggled and haggled. Like, no, that's too much. We can't give that. No. Gotta be careful with our assets.
Hey, look, and I think our last conversation of that show too, John, I'm like, no, I'm Danny Ainge. I want all this. You said, John, I just can't do that. And I think that's exactly how the conversation went. And then they gave RJ Barrett a lot of money.
God, why do you have to go right there?
No, sorry.
Why do you, what? I'm not going to ask the question.
Skip that.
Yeah, well, edit that, Andrew. So no, that's the last time we talked, and now we're here this season. And I will say this: like, look, there was a lot of negativity surrounding the big picture state of the franchise. I think the last couple games have been a nice reminder that this is how I think about it. You may disagree, so I'm curious to get your take. It's a nice reminder that you can be a middle of the road team and still have positivity about your season and about your overall outlook when there is a sense that like everybody's pulling in the same direction, that the players you have are playing up to their capabilities, that for the most part you watch the team on any given night and like more players than not are like look like they're in roles that they can be successful in, and like, is it hard to connect the dots necessarily to when you're really going to like matter again? Yeah, I guess if you zoom in, but I don't know. I feel okay about the big picture the last couple of days, but that's obviously a lot of recency bias, I think.
Yeah, look, I think you can enjoy the day-to-day and enjoy individual wins, but, because of what happened this summer and just the nature of the NBA now, I think back to, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, John, we had these debates and, I was more on no, you got to bottom out and, you got to draft your first guy. And that's the only way you can do this. And you were more of you're good. You attract a free agent, you make a trade. And look, there were good arguments for both positions. What neither one of us could have predicted, and this wasn't your fault, that no star would reach free agency anymore. That's not named Kevin Durant and is not also a lunatic, apparently, him and Kyrie. And throw on top of that, the price to trade for a star would triple, 2.5.
Well, look at it this way, like I reference occasionally like the first Paul George trade, the Kawhi trade. There's at least one like actually kind of both of the Jimmy Butler trades, right?
Yeah.
To Minnesota and then to the Minnesota. I mean, but like at the time, I was like, "Whoa, what a package!" Now you look back at it and like that's all it took to get Jimmy Butler.
Yeah. Then you had this. Then you had the second Paul George trade. You had the Gobert trade, and you had the Mitchell trade, and now you're screwed.
I mean, again, we're not the first people to say it. The Gobert trade really, like, my goodness. So, in retrospect, I think you were right. Which, by
the way, I was lucky because, I was lucky. Let's be honest, because, dude, Kevin Durant could have not been a lunatic and signed with the Knicks, and then you would have been right.
Well, yeah. Although I'm happy he didn't. I don't know about the basketball reasons, but like, am I happy I don't have to root for that guy?
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm with you on that.
Anyway, I mean, look, who knows what's going to happen? 2025 seems like a very long way off, but that could be the next shift. But you're right. In the here and now, it's a little rough. And, the Cavs have fallen off a little bit, but Donovan Mitchell, I think, is still going to, maybe hang around the MVP conversation for a little bit. That's tough. So what does it mean for this year? I think it means, and that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to go through some of the things that are going well, some of the things maybe are not going well. I think I've described it as this before. Like, get your house in order. Like totally and completely. Like if nothing else, they should exit this year feeling like they have a good sense of what they have. They have maybe consolidated a little bit. They have made their priorities clear, because it is unclear to me that they know what their priorities were other than, again, just assemble a bunch of stuff and then trade for a star. It feels like we need a little bit more fine tuning, and hopefully that's where we're headed. And that could lead to somewhere good if it's a step-by-step thing. And then you never know. Maybe they surprise us.
Yeah, look, I'll give you, if you want to give me my get out of no man's land solution, you're not going to like it. I'll give it to you. Maybe we can save that for the end. But, I think they are going in the right direction in terms of this year. And, I get fans wanted to fire Tom Thibodeau before the season, and that's what their priors are heading in. So whatever happens, they're going to go back to that. The same way, whatever happens, they're going to blame Randle. Whatever happens, they're going to say, no, Quickly should have played more, even though he was literally for the first 3 weeks of the season the worst shooting player in the entire National Basketball Association. And by the way, I agree that Quickly needs to play and Obi should play more. I'm on board with all that, but let's give Tom Thibodeau some credit for a second. If I told Knicks fans that Evan Fournier would be out of the rotation before December, before the year started, don't you think they would have been happy?
And
if I told Knicks fans that Emmanuel Quickly would be playing twice the minutes of Derrick Rose before the season, shouldn't Knicks fans be happy?
It's happening.
If I told Knicks fans that Cam Reddish was playing 20 minutes a game, don't you think Knicks fans play the young guys would have been happy before the season?
Played 37 against Denver. 37 minutes,
right?
More minutes than anybody.
And if I would have told you before the year that in a half dozen games, Tom Thibodeau played Obi Toppin and Julius Randle together, wouldn't Knicks fans have been happy? I mean, this actually is progress, people. Like, they're going in the right direction. Yes, I know Obi Toppin's not playing 30 minutes and Julius Randle's not playing 15. That's never going to happen. Get it through your heads. Don't make yourselves miserable. Accept that. But otherwise, like, he's kind of doing what you want. Like, why are you so pissed off about it for?
I think what happened was, as these things were happening, the progress that you're talking about, which again, I completely agree. It is progress. It is very real. I think what was happening was, at the same time as the stuff was going on, there was these very, very, very concerning losses that all happened in the span of a short period of time, which is why I was like, as they started on this West Coast road trip, I said, okay, you can at least now, like, the Thibodeau, if you want to start the Thibodeau watch, I can't sit here and be like, that is an indefensible position. If you want to start the Thibodeau watch. But let's see what happens when they go on this West Coast trip. Do they lose? And I predicted, by the way, that they would lose the first 4 games by like 100 points. I came on the podcast. I said it. Bad job by me. But yeah, but they've responded. So, like, if for whatever reason they're still playing for the coach, and the coach is for the most part making decisions that we could all agree are in the best interest of the team, and the one decision that he's not making that people are still upset about, which is the Obi Randle thing, is there's always been more to that. They're playing Randle because of the contract and the whole thing. You know, I agree with you. I don't think what more, do you really want?
Yeah, and look, the defense has been terrible, and I'm going to throw this out there too. The Knicks defense the last 2 years, I know for sure last year, to start the year has always been worse.
They were ranked worse last year at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it starts slow. The Thibodeau system's hard to master. When you bring in new guys, it takes a while for these guys to figure it out. It takes a while, I think, for the present guys to, there's so much communicating, know who's going where, how you're rotating, all that stuff. I think it takes time to get there. I mean, you remember these conversations, John, the last 2 years? The Knicks were allowing more wide open threes than any other team in the league, but they were shooting 31%. And frankly, people were like, oh, well, they're letting the right guys shoot. Maybe. I was always of the opinion that I think they just got really lucky, to be quite honest with you. I think it was luck. And then their defense got better as the year went along. The luck went away, but the defense improved, right?
Yeah.
I think they kind of just ran into a couple hot teams on wrong nights, and it made those mistakes look even worse than they would if they... I remember that Bucks game last year. I don't know, was it early January or December when the Bucks shot they were the best 3-point shooting the team in the league, and they shot 15% from three, and they shot 48 threes in the game, and the Knicks won. Yeah. But it wasn't good defense. The Bucks just couldn't hit a damn thing. It was literally the polar opposite of what the Thunder did, right? They can't shoot threes for crap, but they happen to have a hot night. Look, it happens. Is it good? No. Is it defensible? No. Should you be mad at the players and the coach for it? Absolutely. But to me, this isn't out of the realm of the types of things we've seen from the Knicks defense early in past seasons. And we've seen it get better over the course of those years. So I am fairly confident, especially as Quentin Grimes plays more, and we'll talk about him and Reddish.
Let's go.
I think it will get better, to be quite honest with you. And when Mitch gets back, I think that's going to make a difference too.
That's the other thing I was going to say. And it's I don't know that I'm mentally prepared to have the Mitchell Robinson conversation right now with how Sims has played the last 2 games and what that means and what they should do with Mitch. I mean, obviously he's going to play when he's back. I'm more talking about long-term and is there a trade market for Mitchell Robinson? Whatever. We could talk about, save that
John,
for...
They have too many players. Look, you know that. Yes, I know that. They have too many guys.
They do have too many guys. two guys who I don't think anyone's complaining are both here, and one of them's playing right now, one of them's not. Quentin Grimes and Cam Reddish. I was starting to get some questions last night after the Denver game about Cam's ceiling versus the ceiling of another prominent wing on this team who he may have went to college with.
I might have brought that up myself. That's a good point. I think
whose ceiling is higher. And like, I know he's kind of persona non grata right now, but Grimes is still here. And I don't even think Thibs or anybody in the organization believes that like anything like that Grimes is not still going to be very good. I still feel confident in Quentin Grimes. I think in those two pieces, the Knicks now can look at this and be like, and then I'm going to throw quickly in here too, because I know the shooting numbers have been bad, but quickly another wing, small wing, or he's more of a guard, ball handler than a wing, but like a guy who could defend at such a high level. And when you have him and Grimes and Cam Reddish, and in theory, all three guys be able to shoot, all three guys at the very least could attack closeouts quickly, skill set maybe a little bit bigger than that. Like, that's a really interesting little core of something that the Knicks have.
No, dude, I agree. And look, I'm not worried about Grimes. He'll play eventually. Like he's just going to. He's too good. Yeah. He's a good defender. He can shoot. He's working into it. There's no reason to rush him into this, with his mysterious sore foot, bruise, whatever the hell it is, with the Knicks medical, camouflage.
Not plantar fasciitis, according to Grimes, I think said that.
Yes, I believe so. I guess I'm was it Kenyon Martin that had sore foot for like 3 months, or was it Rasheed Wallace for 3 months? And then he had like foot surgery at the end of the year. It was one of the two. I forget which one. I think it was Kmart, right?
Rashid?
It was Rashid?
It was Sheed. Kmart didn't get to the team until later in the season.
Because that's right. All right. It was Sheed then. He had a sore foot for 3 months and then he had foot surgery. Oh, no, his foot was broken. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't think that's what Grimes has, by the way, but the Knicks did do that with Rasheed Wallace. So, look, Grimes is going to play eventually. I'm not worried about that. It's not happening now, but it's not happening because Reddish has been good. And Barrett's going to play and Quickly's going to play. Like, they're already sat down Fournier, unless you're just not playing Derrick Rose at all, which I think we're going to get there at some point, by the way, though he has played better the last couple of games and Thibs loves him. I think they'll figure out a way to get Grimes in there. But in terms of Reddish, John, the thing that's jumped out at me, when's the last time you watched games and 2 or 3 times a game, a wing on the Knicks did something and you said, holy cow, that dude's the best athlete on the floor? Like that, was it Kessler that blew by him and he came from behind and just pinned it against the backboard? I think. Unbelievable play. Like no Knicks, look, no other Knick can do that stuff. Like that's special athletic ability, and he finishes better than any of. He misses, but the style of his finishing: jump, draw contact, hang, keep his body control, and finish. Besides Julius, who can do that a little bit, though he doesn't finish as much as you would like. No other Knick has that type of burst and hops around the rim.
That's
so if he can shoot and he can figure out, to quote Tom Thibodeau, his rim reads, because I still think he kind of just does stuff. I'm not sure if he knows what he's doing around the rim, but he's really talented. If he can fix those two things, Cam Reddish is like not just a good player. He could be like a really, really good player.
I feel like the last 2 or 3, I would have to really go back and watch all the possessions. The last 2 or 3 games. So, from the Oklahoma City game, which is when he's had this nice little scoring stretch, although I know he didn't score as much in Denver. He has eliminated those terrible shots that he was taking 1 or 2 times a game that just reminded me of like the awful shots that RJ has taken a lot of over the course of his career. But with Cam,
John, just real quick, we were texting the preseason about how bad Reddish looked. And we're like, that trade was probably the worst move Leon Rose has made. And now we look like schmucks.
No. Again, why would anybody listen to me? Yeah. But he hit like a quarter of his shots in the preseason and he looked bad doing it. I just wonder, maybe he just needed some time to get into some kind of rhythm or whatever the case may be. He does. It's 2 or 3 times a night where on offense specifically, you're like, there's nobody else on the team that could do that. And then defensively, man, it's a nice luxury to have that dude who with that kind of length and he's been active, and there's not really the moments off ball, 2 or 3 a game, but like that's not bad. You could live with that. He's engaged. It's all the things that you want. The interesting thing for me with him, and this has to do with Grimes, if again, in theory, at some point Grimes is going to come back and play, is like which of those guys makes more sense in a starting lineup that theoretically contains Jalen Brunson, RJ Barrett, and Julius Randle, because you like to see you like to see Grimes put the ball on the floor too, but I think Cam really is much more exciting when it comes to like attacking closeouts and like, can you run a few plays for him here and there? Because that's the thing, they're not running anything for Cam, and it's like I don't know. Is he better off the bench because of that? But at the same time, I think it looks good right now with the starting five in some way, shape, or form. Yeah,
and I think both him and Barrett are better in transition too, right? Like Cam Reddish in transition is just a bull. Like it's hard to stop him. He's that athletic, and that's where Barrett's best too, right? So like you almost want to put him with like Toppin and
hold on. Is RJ Barrett best in transition?
Is he better at it than when he's in the half court?
See, now we're in a difficult conversation.
John, we're doing levels of comparison here. I'm not comparing him to like normal NBA players. I'm comparing him to half court version of RJ Barrett.
Okay. Well, I guess from that perspective, sure. We could agree that Cam Reddish is very good in transition. I think yes, that's good.
So look, but bottom line is that I think both guys have the ability to play. I think they can both help. And look, I think Reddish that's been the biggest surprise to me. And by the way, I'll give Tom Thibodeau more credit. And by the way, I'm not like the biggest Thibodeau guy there. I think he's fine. I'm like, he's okay. He's not horrible. He's not great. He's fine. There are definitely things to criticize that are fair. But can we bury the Tom Thibodeau cannot develop players myth, please?
I always thought that was stupid.
I mean, it's nonsense. I mean, how much Cam Reddish looks better than he's ever looked in his whole career. Obi Toppin has legitimately become a great shooter under Tom Thibodeau's watch. And I don't want to hear this. Oh, if you would have just gotten the opportunity to play last year, he would have done this last year. No. Just watch him in Summer League 2 years ago. Just no. Quickly,
they've earned their minutes.
Yeah. And quickly, aside from the shooting, he's improved in every other aspect of his game, from defense to playmaking, all that stuff. He's gotten a lot better. So they've actually, John, let's be honest. We've been watching the Knicks way too long for us to be mentally healthy. They've developed young guys under this regime better than any other regime has developed young players since we've watched the team. And it's not close.
What other regime has developed any young, like Gallo and Wilson Chandler had those couple of years and then they traded him away. And, it's like, there's
Frank
really not
Williams
much to
and Marty Collins isn't getting you excited now.
Well, listen, I was a big Marty Collins fan. I had a lot of Marty Collins stock. I don't know how that stock's doing about as well as Twitter right now.
And our Frank Ntilikina property also not doing the best.
Yeah, that haven't tended to that in a while. So let's briefly talk about it. We have to talk about it. So the other part of the conversation again after the Denver win was RJ. Like, should we be considering him like it's a potential 6-man? At some point, if this keeps up. And I do think that there is some logic to it. And I talked about it last night, so I don't want to repeat myself. But let me just say this. Because your expectations for RJ, I think, were similar to mine, which were not these crazy expectations. So I think, in theory, lower expectations mean you're probably not as worried. Are you worried about RJ so far?
What I'm worried about is and by the way, go listen to the Tom Piccolo podcast that you did with him a couple of days ago, because I think you guys hit that conversation out of the park, and anything I say, I think will just be repeating it. So I'll just throw this out there because I think this is a point that Tom made. The way I've described RJ is that he would best be suited as a do everything guy, right? Like a pretty good shooter, a pretty good driver, good defender.
Yep.
The problem is that he does.
But capable of being a good defender.
Well, again, but that's what his goal should be, right? But I don't think that's what RJ's goal is. I think RJ thinks he's going to be a 27 point per game scorer in this league and be, alpha male man. And I've never thought since they drafted him that he had the athleticism and physical ability to be that guy unless he became an elite shooter. And he is nowhere near to being an elite shooter. And I think what bothers me the most, and this will probably really piss off Knicks fans, but sorry. Like we just talked about all the improvement that Toppin's made and Quickly's made and all these guys have made since they've been here. From a very basic sense, John, how is RJ Barrett different than the guy that got drafted out of Duke? He's a guy that drives into traffic, has trouble finishing. He doesn't pass when he drives into traffic enough. He gets trapped. He doesn't distribute when he should. He's just, kind of wants to score more than distribute, and he still doesn't shoot very well. So I think in a lot of ways, while he has gotten better on the margins, like if you just look at basic, this is RJ Barrett, the player, he's kind of the same guy that he was at Duke, right?
If you had asked me this before the season started, my first response would have been, I think the shooting has gotten a lot better. And
3-point shooting, yeah, fair. Like catch and shoot stuff, absolutely. I think it has gotten better. I agree with that. But
hold on. We could sit here and say that, and yet I look up and the numbers are what the numbers are this year. And you want to give me he's sick, and you want to give me he's this and he's that. He starts slow. Okay, we're 15 games in, and he's hitting. I just had it up before. What is he hitting? 25% from three? Is
he down to 25? I know he was at 28 before the Denver game.
Well, he took a bunch of threes and missed all of them.
That was not a good shoot.
Yeah, he's at 26. Cleaning the Glass has it at 26, 23% on above the break threes. So like, I can't really sit here and be like, oh, the shooting is definitely improved, because we can't do that. We can't ignore a 15 game sample size. I mean, it's not 80 games, but it's not 2 or 5. So I will say that I do think his shot selection at the rim, I was going to say his shot selection at the rim is better. And what I meant by that, what I was going to mean by that is like there used to be just so these, like, again, I always reference them, these 2 or 3 or 4 shots that he put up at the rim that had no chance, and they were just some of the ugliest shots. I feel like we haven't seen those. And at the same time, the decision making on when to shoot and when not to shoot, even if it doesn't look as ugly, the sum total is like there's still way too many shots being taken that have no business being taken. And Andrew clipped the shot to end the first quarter in the Denver game, which was like, I mean, that was high. There were 4 Nuggets there within 5 feet of him. And Emmanuel quickly there like a lunatic on the other side of the court. Yeah. So
here's the other thing, beside the offense, he has to decide he wants to, and he needs to decide and understand that he needs to be a really good defender. He will never be a good enough offensive player where that can carry him into being a great NBA player.
And that was Tom's. That's
why I think Tom hit it out of the park. If he never becomes an above average to good defender, and look, first of all, I think he's out of position. I don't think he's quick enough to guard 2s in the NBA. I always thought he was a 3. I think that's who he needs to guard. He needs to guard bigger players because I think he's kind of not quick and he doesn't navigate screens all that well. So I think that's part of the issue, to be honest with you. Like putting him on, God, who'd they put him on? A really quick point guard type guy. They put him on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Sorry.
I thought he did okay against Shai. I gotta tell you, I thought he did okay.
I didn't. I thought he was getting lit up
in comparison to how everybody else was doing. Nobody was good that game.
No, I know. And look, and Gilgeous-Alexander is great, but look, to me,
MVP
he just has to dedicate himself. And look, his usage is down. He doesn't have the ball as much. There's no excuse here. Put more energy into defense, please.
Something's not right. Something's not right. And I saw a clip going around Twitter, or somebody had posted a clip on Twitter, a compilation of some plays of him on defense from, I think, 2 years ago, where he just looked a lot more agile than he does right now. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it is a physical thing. Maybe it is. He needs to drop a few pounds. I don't know. I don't believe that the player that we're seeing right now is the player that RJ Barrett is going to be. I think this is just not a great moment for him. I think he's going to be fine. I just don't know what fine looks like. That said, and this is a good transition to Randle, because Randle is coming off. I know he was 8th in MVP voting 2 years ago. I really do think with the defensive performance that he gave, there's an argument that this was his best game as a Knick.
Yeah.
It's an argument. I really have to go back and look like detailed, like what all those great games he had 2 years ago. So you have Randle here. Now he's looking okay for the moment. And RJ, not so much. What you do know is these two guys together, I think we know this, just don't make any sense. So you have them too. And then, oh, by the way, we brought it up before, and I'll bring it up again now because I think it's relevant. You have Mitchell Robinson on a new 4-year, $60 million deal on a team where, if anything, your composition of your roster screams like you guys could play small more. You could succeed playing small. You don't need 3 centers. You probably don't need 2 centers. And Sims is making dirt cheap money, and Hartenstein's on a nice little deal, and he's more functional. So you have all these pieces that make a lot of money, and they don't necessarily fit together on this roster. That's why I open with what I open with about, like, can we get to a place where we're figuring out like how to make it make sense for right now? And I don't know what that entails.
No, I think they have too many guys. Like we said it before, right? They just have too many guys that need to play and not enough shooters. This is a blanket statement, and I feel confident saying this. Tom Thibodeau should stand in front of the team and said, I don't want any of you, maybe Jalen Brunson, to ever shoot a 3-point shot off the dribble. Who on this team is good enough that you feel confident that off the dribble, and I don't mean stepping into a 3 on a break or something like that. Yeah. I'm talking like step backing, sidestepping. Who do you have confidence in hitting a 3 doing that? Maybe Emmanuel Quickley 2 years ago, not Emmanuel Quickley today. Like Julius Randle should never be taking 3s off the dribble. RJ Barrett should never be taking 3s. Maybe Quentin Grimes, maybe.
Late clock. I would honestly, I got to tell you, Julius, he does hit a lot of them.
He takes a lot of them too.
He takes a lot of them, but I'll say that he's not shy. Like
he's not shy. That's
shy
sure.
about it, which for better.
Again, that's the other thing. People want to kill Randle for everything, and his defense has been horrendous. John, you're 100% right about that. No argument. He's been a good offensive player this year. Yes. Like it's undeniably he's been good, and he's been the second best offensive player on this team. And frankly, I think they need him to be a shot creator on this team to some extent. Now, how that matches with other people and where you use that shot creation and with whom else on the floor, that's a fair conversation to have. Is I think you're right. You put Obi's floor spreading shooting with that first team. Does it open things up a little bit for other people? Yeah, I think that's a fair conversation. But Randle has been an efficient offensive player this year that hasn't held the ball as much. He's really corrected a lot of the things. He doesn't take the long 2s as much. He's corrected a lot of the things we wanted him to correct offensively in the offseason.
I'm looking up his cleaning glass numbers now because they were good, and that was a couple games ago, and they've certainly got even better. I mean, yeah, he's completely, for the most part, eliminated the long 2s from his diet. I mean, if you look just points per shot attempt or points per 100 shot attempts, the cleaning the glass metric, which is kind of like an overarching efficiency number, he was in the 6th percentile for big men last year, 101.6. He's up to 118.6. That's a 17 point per 100 possession jump. He's in the 67th percentile now. That is, John, that's massive. And when you consider
his usage.
Yes, exactly. And he's still a really high use. His usage has gone down. He was at 30 and like close to 30 the last 2 years. He's at 25.7 now, which is actually, believe it or not, the lowest usage he's had since he was a Laker. In his year in New Orleans, he didn't play that many minutes, but he played 30 minutes a game, but his usage was 27. It's 25.7 now. So he's not the usage is down. He's not taking selfish shots. The complaints for me really have come on the defensive end. And
fair.
if he's going to bring the type of effort he brought against Denver, that's a game changer. But and I wonder, again, if you had a different roster, right? If you had a different type of roster and his presence wasn't preventing Obi Toppin from playing what he should be playing, which is, I don't know what he should be playing, 25 minutes a night. Would that be?
Honestly, John, with the way he's shooting the 3, he should probably be close to 30. He should be.
If your roster was different, you could make that happen. You could play Julius for 30 minutes a game. You could play Toppin close to 30 minutes a game. You could have them overlap for 5 minutes a half. I don't know if my math adds up there. Whereabouts? Yeah, about 5 minutes a half. And, you play a traditional center or a couple of traditional centers the rest of the time. And the nice thing, you could do that, again, if in theory, your only centers on the team were Hartenstein and Sims, because they're not making a lot of money. So, if you're like, okay, you know what? We're going to use Sims for 6 minutes a half, right? That's all we're going to do. You don't feel bad about it because dude's making $2 million. That's not the situation here. Let me ask you this, of Mitch, RJ, and Julius, and I guess it's an unfair question because RJ's, it's complicated to trade him. Who do you think would be the most likely guy you would not be surprised if they were off the team before this deadline? Or do you think it's more likely that all of them will be on the team after the deadline?
I think it's likely that all those guys will be here by the deadline.
Really? Andrew, you want to chime in? I see you're shaking your head. You're nodding too.
I just agree.
You agree?
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's hard. I mean, Mitch is making a lot of money and he's coming off an injury. And, I have two trends. Can I ask you this question? How come RJ, a guy who, we're told is such a hard worker in the offseason, I'm not saying he's not, but that's what we're told. How come he starts every season when he can't hit the broadside of a barn?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, every year it's the same thing. I'm just trying to figure out why. The other thing that's weird, and I went back to last year, I looked at it too to confirm my priors, and I'm like, no, it's true. Julius Randle plays better on West Coast trips. His best stretch last year came on his 2 West Coast trips when he played out of his damn mind. Why?
That's wild.
It's really weird, right?
Maybe they should trade him now.
Strange.
Or wait till the end of the trip.
Yeah, wait till the end of the trip. Yeah, he's going to tear up Oklahoma City, and then you get the hell get him out of here.
Actually, you know what? It's because the Warriors' problems have been on offense, especially at home. They've been lighting the scoreboard up at home. They can't defend anybody. I wouldn't be would it shock you if Julius went into Golden State and had a nice game. They got Draymond, so that might be tricky part of it. And then after Golden State, they got Phoenix. Little addition action. What do you think, Jules? And then
I thought
his contract isn't. People call it an albatross. I've seen albatross contracts. That ain't an albatross. It's not good, but we've seen far worse contracts signed by Knicks players. If we can start listing them, Penny Hardaway, Eddie Curry, go to Jerome James. Just go through the list. There's a lot of them. It's not an easily tradable contract, but it's not. He's not Eddie Curry.
Hold on. Again, and I've thought more about Randle trades than anybody else.
I know you have.
And that's because, and again, that's not personal. That is just because I believe ultimately the team's long-term fortunes are better if he's not here.
And by the way, I agree with you. And as much as I'm defending Randle here, I'm saying he's doing all these good things. Yeah, ideally, just for the trajectory of the team, it makes sense for him not to be here. I agree 100%.
Yeah, it's because as long as he's here, he's going to have a certain type of role. And I think if Julius Randle is playing a certain type of role and has that much usage and has that many shots, you could be a good team. You maybe even could be a really good team if you surround him with the right pieces. I don't think you could ever be a great team, but that's neither here nor there at the moment.
And he blocks Obi, which is the more important thing. And you have to know what he is.
And that's huge. And that really is significant. And it kind of prevents you from at least attempting to play a different style. I gotta say, RJ won't be traded before the deadline because it's just too tough to find a trade where the numbers work because of the poison pill thing.
Poison pill, yeah, I know.
If you ask me, do you bet on Randle and Mitch both being here after the deadline or one of them being traded? I bet you one of them gets traded.
Will they have to attach an asset to move them?
Well, that's what I was going to point out on Randle is you're saying he's not an albatross contract. I agree, but the Knicks thus far, I believe, have never gotten to the point where they have been willing to treat him as a sunk cost. I think they have continued and I don't know what conversations they've had, but I believe in any, whether it's internal dialogue or anything, there has been an agreement like we are going to hold the fort. We are going to treat Julius Randle like an asset, like a valuable asset. Same thing with
Fournier too, by the way. I think they think of Fournier the same way, and I think they're wrong about both of them. But
I feel like that was admitting honestly, that's something we should have given more credit to. The organization admitted, you know what? We fucked up.
Yeah, you're right.
They did.
They also did the same thing with Kemba. They admitted it. We screwed up.
That was a little bit easier to do because
it's easier, sure,
because of the money. But yeah, they did. With Fournier, I think it was probably a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow because I really do think. And again, Fred Katz came on with Andrew last week and talked about how, like, in conversations with other teams, like, oh yeah, you could have Fournier, but you got to give something up. Give us like a second round pick. Obviously, no one's doing that with Randle. It could turn so quickly because if he goes out and he finishes his West Coast road trip and he looks good, if you're another team, it's like and you look at his skill set. And you're like, man, we could get this dude for like a first or something, a first and like one of our, a young player who's not like a big time core piece.
Dude, even a salary dump and a guy that got drafted 20th like this year, like something like that. You know what I mean? Like not a big thing back, but it's something. You get back something.
I wonder if the Knicks would do it.
If
he started playing well,
I think they would. If it's like an expiring or one with only like 2 years left and they shave 2 years off the deal, I think, and maybe a guy that fits a little bit better, I think maybe that makes sense.
Julius is going to opt out, by the way, with the money that's going to be around in 2025. He's going to opt out.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Because I don't know what he's whatever. He's 28, 29 million or 30 million that year. Like the keep in mind, by 2025, there will be players signing what, $70 million in annual money? I think.
Here's the scary thing, though, John. If the Giants, sorry, I'm in football mode.
I do want to ask about the Giants,
and they're playing well. If the Knicks do like extend Obi and quickly, like they might not have money in 25. That's what makes this so like perilous in terms of where they are right now, because like that's a real thing. Like they got to start paying, like Reddish too. Like if you keep in Reddish quickly and Obi, like the Knicks are going to be over the, like, or at least close to the cap in 2025. I mean, I'm not Jeremy Cohen. I don't have my, spreadsheet here that, they do everything. But I mean, back of the napkin math, it's a lot of money.
Which is why, and that's the other little unpleasantness. And Ian Begley's had these recent reports, and I certainly believe it, that there's, they've been having conversations about quickly with other teams, and they clearly want to remain liquid to a certain extent, right? With their asset base, which Julius factors into 100%. They're in a really interesting spot. And I here's the one thing I'll say. I have faith in this. I don't think they will make a non-star trade that significantly inhibits any of their asset base. I think if they make a non-star trade, I think it will be a trade that is on its face a smart trade. Maybe it's not a trade everybody's going to love. Maybe there's a young player that goes out in the trade who people don't want to give up. But I think that this front office, I trust them enough to do that. Maybe at my own peril.
No, I agree. I think they've been disciplined. Like if there's one thing you say about this front office, that they've been disciplined. They haven't
maybe over disciplined, but yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe. Look, I still think the Mitchell trade was too much for them. I don't think it would have worked long term to win a title, but whatever. I think you're right. I think that's a good assumption to make, assuming these guys are still running the organization in 2 years, because if they bring in a new front office, then who knows what the edict from above is going to be on that front.
What do you think will be the biggest determining factor? I mean, it's a good place to kind of finish up. What do you think will be the biggest determining factor in whether or not this front office hangs around? Because I have an answer.
I don't think they'll get fired this offseason unless it's like a 28 win crash and burn.
Yeah.
If they win 35 or more games, 30, and they're in it towards the end and the Garden's full and, Jalen Brunson's good and the young guys play well, I don't think Leon Rose loses his job this offseason. I don't. That's a good question. How happy is James Dolan with not being a laughingstock and just being, a decent basketball team? Like, is that good enough for him? I don't know the answer to that question. I honestly don't, because we haven't, frankly, experienced decent basketball for multiple years in that building for quite a long time. So I don't know how James Dolan looks at that.
Sunday, correct me if I'm wrong. Let me just think back real quick. Yeah, no. Did it ever get ugly in the Garden last year? For any of those big comebacks against them?
The Randle thumbs down thing was bad.
That was bad. Ugly, but it wasn't like a round chorus of boos as the team exited the court at the end of the game. It was more like an isolated thing. I'm trying to think because like the Nets comeback was in Brooklyn.
That's the one.
But that was in Brooklyn, wasn't it?
No, the Nets comeback was at the Garden.
Oh, that was in Madison Square Garden? Okay.
Yeah. The Randle thumbs down thing happened the night of the RJ buzzer beater. So it was almost completely forgotten.
I forgot about that.
Within a half. The Nets comeback, no KD, no Kyrie. It also was right after the Laker game, was right after when RJ got hurt at the end of the Denver game, the Portland game, the OKC. You see what I'm saying? Like there was a pattern that snowballed to that.
So with the possible exception of the Brooklyn game last year, I think the OKC game was the ugliest moment of the Leon Rose regime in terms of like in the Garden, a game that just went completely wrong and fans let the team have it. I don't believe James Dolan cared for that. And I think too many of those would get them out the door maybe as soon as this offseason, although I agree with you. It would have to be a win total in the 20s for that to happen. Here's my answer. I think they're going to get judged by what they've done and the players they've brought in since Leon Rose has been here. So like this organization this front office, I guess if you want to give me Scott Perry, but who the hell knows what power Scott Perry has at this point. I'm not counting him. Like they didn't draft RJ Barrett. They didn't sign initially. I know they extended him. They didn't initially sign Julius Randle. They brought in Obi. They brought in Quickly. They brought in Grimes. They brought in Reddish, and they brought in Brunson, and they brought in Hartenstein. Am I forgetting anybody? I think those are like the big guys, right?
Yeah, and Mitch was already here.
Yeah. Mitch Robinson's already here. They signed Fournier, so that's already a demerit. But I think if the kids and Brunson, I'll group him in with that. Like if more of the kids that they have brought in, so really we're talking about Obi, Quickly, Grimes, Cam, those four. I think if like three of them really look like, okay, we know what we're doing here. We know how to bring in young players. We know how to bring them along. And the Brunson thing continues to work out. I think that's enough that'll keep him here for a little while.
That's John, it's fun. Yeah, I agree. I think it keeps him here for a while. I'm with you on that. And look, there is if they really are trapped in no man's land here, there is a way to get out of it. I mean, it's and I don't think it would be as ugly as everyone thinks it would be, because I don't think it would take as long as people think it would be. And the simple answer would be to trade everyone. And when I say trade everyone, I don't mean trade Julius Randle. I don't mean trade Evan Fournier. I mean trade all your good players that other teams want on cheap contracts. Just think about it. Right now, John, just hear me out. And I understand this will probably never happen, and maybe it's unrealistic as pie in the sky thinking, but just let's play out this little mind game with me. How many first round picks could you acquire if you traded at some point this season or in the offseason? Brunson, Toppin, Quickly,
oh my God,
Grimes, RJ.
They're never going to do this, but
just play it out with me. What's 5, 6 first round picks?
I don't know what RJ's value is right now. Be very clear about that.
Yeah, but Brunson has a lot of value, and Toppin, Quickly, and Grimes rookie contracts have plenty of value.
Yeah, Brunson. I mean, I think the young players is an easier conversation. Like, could Emmanuel Quickly get you a first round pick? Yes. Is it going to be a protected first round pick? Yes. I don't think Quickly is getting you a primo pick. I don't think any of the young players on this team are getting you a primo pick.
Now, here's the thing, though. I think you could get in, like, for example, let's say if you train to a really good team, like say I don't know what their pick situation is, sort of, let's say this Clippers, right? Clippers say, we need another guy off the bench. We'll trade you this year's first round pick unprotected. You know, we know we're already good, but it's unprotected, or next year's even, you know what I mean? But you aren't getting like a 27 or 28 unprotected or anything like that. That's the thing, is like, I don't think you're getting that for any of these guys. Like, you're not, like, teams just aren't going to give those picks up unprotected. And Brunson's complicated because, like, he makes so much money. The salary you're taking back determines so much of what the goodies in the trade are going to be. So that's even a tough one to consider. But like, yeah, I mean, would Brunson get you something good? Yeah, I'm sure he would get you something good. So then you're sitting there, and if you do it quickly, no pun intended, you get to the end of the year, that joke, and you get a top 5 pick in what's supposed to be a great draft, right? I'm not saying you get Wembanyama. Maybe you get one of these other guys that's supposed to be really good, right? Yeah. You have your plus at this point 8 or 9 first round picks over the next 3 or 4 years. Next year, you're terrible again. You get another top 4 or 5 pick.
Yeah.
Then your cap is clear heading into 2025.
Yeah.
You could sign like 3 guys if you want. You have all these extra picks. You have Randle and Fournier as your tank commanders for a couple years. Right on. And
wow.
Look,
what a depressing. You've just depressed me.
You're suffering for only a year and a half.
This is never going to happen.
For everything we've been through for 20 years. Would a year and a half really be that bad?
Here's what I'm going to push back on you. I don't think you need to do that. I don't think you need to do that. I think you can. I think there's enough. And I have pushed back against the christening of this young core as like the, holier than thou. I've pushed back against that. That said, even though you could look at other young teams around the league, like even Denver, like last night, you could look at they got Bones Highland, they got Zeke Naji, these are interesting, good young players. Like a lot of teams have interesting young players. I think there is something special about the kids that the Knicks have. And I'm not saying that's not enough, obviously, because that's saying it's not enough to get them where they need to go. But I think that's worth hanging on to. I think it's worth hanging on to what this core that you got. And I think, and this is the most important part, I think you can still be bad this year and play the kids because I think the league is really good.
I don't think you're bad enough, though. I don't think you're bad enough.
Brunson to me is the key. If you shut down Brunson,
good.
Because guess what? If they don't have Brunson, I think we're at what's my running total? Andrew, I hope you're keeping track of this. I say that they are 2-13 if they don't have Jalen Brunson.
All right. Yeah. You've been saying I think it's accurate too. There's so many wins where if he wasn't there in the fourth quarter, where would they be? Especially just compared to last year when they didn't have like a fourth quarter offense that was effective. And now it's like Jalen Brunson, go do stuff.
Yeah. Look, where we're sitting here, John, big picture though, we're still sitting here. We got to either get lucky in the draft, whether it's in the lottery, which there's a chance they're in the lottery this year. It's probably the last team in the lottery, but there's a chance they're in the lottery this year if they finish out of the play-in.
I bet you they're not, but keep going. I bet you they're not.
And by the way, I don't think they will be there. I think they're going to be the 10th seed. That's where I think they're going to land, which is naturally the worst possible place you can be. Actually, 11th is actually the worst possible place.
11th is the worst place you could be.
11th the worst. 10th is the second worst. Or maybe 12th is whatever. But the bottom line is that you're still hoping to get lucky in the lottery and move up, or be lucky enough to draft a future star at 12 or 13, wherever you're picking. And because if that doesn't happen, if you don't get lucky in the draft and get a real star, I still don't see the calculation where you get the 2-star players you need to eventually be.
Here's where I'm at. Maybe words I'll live to regret. I believe enough in the young players that they have and Jalen Brunson specifically. Jalen Brunson is massively important in what I'm about to say. That I think if they get a little lucky, maybe there's a team out there that wants to give up a couple of nice things for Julius Randle. I think they are a year's worth of moves away, or a year and a half's worth of moves away, where we could get to a point where the 2-star conversation becomes, let's add the one right. And I've kind of said this over the summer too. Let's add the one right guy. And I don't think anyone believed that Donovan Mitchell playing the best basketball he could possibly play, which you could say he's playing right now. I don't think anyone believed he would ever be that number one. I think we could get to a point where you talk about like, okay, let's add the right one guy to this core, and we give up everything we need to get the young guy while keeping just enough. I think that could be a real plan.
I mean, that would have to be like a Giannis level player.
I think there's not Giannis, but
of course, not. You know what I mean? Though. I mean, a player that like a legitimate, like not a all NBA third team guy.
Don't you know my guy?
An all NBA first team player.
You don't know my guy? Andrew, tell him my guy.
I'm assuming you're referring to, well, not Luka. That's never happening, but Joel Embiid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always with my guy. Former
client of Leon Rose.
Giddy up. I like that, man. You're making a face. Schmeelk.
That's if I had any pushback.
I'm very hesitant to make the center your best player. I just think it's very hard to do it that way. MB's really good. I'm happy you didn't say Karl Anthony Towns because I would still not touch that guy with a 10-foot pole. And by the way,
that's the Nixie trade. That's the Nixie trade.
And that's what I'm worried about because my God, I mean, could I be less surprised that Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns aren't working? I mean,
shocked.
Karl Anthony Towns couldn't guard at the 5. Why did they think he could guard at the 4? I mean, it's really the dumbest freaking thing I ever heard of in my whole life. It's so mind-bogglingly stupid. But look, Embiid's awesome. Look, he's a great player, and he's kind of getting over the injury bug. Not impossible. How old is he now?
I want to say he's 29. That could be wrong. 28 or 29. But I think the worry there is and he's played through injuries. He's toughed out a lot of stuff. What am I right, Andrew?
Joel Embiid is 28 years old.
20 years old. See?
He's a year older than Julius Randle.
And he's 11 years younger than me. How depressing.
Hey, look, Embiid's a good name.
See, that's the only pushback I would give to
is what?
The blow it up, John, is like, well, there's two Johns. Hold on. John Schmeelk. Okay.
Yes.
They're like, they do have assets. They did miss out on Donovan Mitchell or not get Donovan Mitchell, but I don't think they're as far away as you might think. That it's literally just wait until the next guy becomes available. And maybe like we've seen this year, some of your other assets have taken a leap, so that way the price might actually be. We were like preaching because what Quentin Grimes could be, because of what Obi could be, because of what RJ could be in the Danny Ainge sweepstakes. Now it's like, look at what Cam Reddish is. Look at what Emmanuel Quickly is. Maybe only one of those and all your picks has to go.
Yeah, it would have to happen soon, though, because you got to start paying those guys soon. And that's when their value goes down because they're under long-term contracts.
Even with a rising cap like that?
Yeah, I think that's where the rising cap can come into play where
matching salaries becomes tougher then too with all that.
No, but that's the thing is if you are, even if you're paying guys, as long as you have enough wiggle room under the cap, there's a way, like there's always like, here's the thing. If there's one thing that I still believe is true about the NBA, because it's always been true, if there's a will, there's a way. If a guy wants to come to your team and the team that he's on wants your assets, like you figure out the money. Like there's a way to figure out the money. I will say, Andrew, for as much as you just sat here and was like, look at what these guys are now. None of these young players yet has had they haven't had great, like Cam Reddish, it's still early. Like he still needs to consistently. I know you.
Yeah. I'm not saying like one has blossomed into the centerpiece of a deal. I'm saying you see the value going up.
So and that is why I believe the rest of the season and specifically from now until the trade deadline. And if you want to extend it to the summer, you can extend it to the summer. Is so vital because I think there is a path towards making these kids look even better. And I don't think it just comes down to playing time. I don't think it's never just come down to playing time for me. It comes down to what roles are they in? Are you putting them in positions where they can have to learn on the fly a little bit, but they've also, they're ready. I think these guys are ready. I think Cam's ready. I think Quickly's ready. I think Obi's ready. RJ, we'll see.
No, you're right though. I think look, I'll end here. That's the key. Because the only way you have enough assets to do what you need to do is if those players have more value than they do now, right? That's the only way it works. And that requires continued development and, playing time, sure, whatever. But the guy's getting better. Like Quickly needs to start shooting better again and do it more consistently. Like with Obi, it's minutes. All right. That's minutes. That
and not role situation.
Yes. Who he's playing with.
Yeah, and what does he have space? And is he the one setting the screen at the top of the key? Is he the one in the pick and roll? Like that's stuff we have not seen enough of, and that for all the Fire Thibodeau folks out there, I think is probably I don't want to say the most valid thing, but that's at the same time that's an organizational thing because the organization went out and signed all these centers. So
the only problem though is that the team that's going to be trading the star you have to hope they're in a position where they actually want the young guys and they don't.
It's going to be picks, though. It's going to be picks.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's going to be picks. So, I mean, I guess the young guys have to be good enough that, to your point, John, where you add the one right star, exactly, then you can be good enough.
Yeah. And
you really got to be picky then. You got to be patient. You got to wait.
I understand that.
They were when it came to Donovan Mitchell,
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. In the meantime, we'll keep rooting for good results. I like rooting
Knicks
for
basketball 2025 or bust. Stay tuned for the next year and a half, folks. It'll be fun, I promise.
Always bringing the positive. Oh, yeah, I said I was going to ask you a Giants question.
I was going to say, let's talk football, baby.
Yeah, what do you got?
Oh my God.
No, the Jets. Hey, I got no problem with the Jets.
I got no problem with the Giants.
Look at the Giants. I think you guys need a better quarterback, but other than that, you guys got a great roster.
I also think you need a better quarterback, but
I think if the Jets had Daniel Jones, you guys would be really, really good.
So that is my question. That is my question. I have watched parts of Giants games, and I feel like in the ether, I'm hearing the streets are saying that Daniel Jones is good. Is this accurate? And yeah, is it accurate?
Daniel Jones is a tough evaluation, to be honest with you, because they're not asking him to do what the Chiefs are asking Patrick Mahomes to do, what the Bills asked Josh Allen to do. They're asking him to play a pretty conservative brand of football, to be honest with you. He threw 17 passes the last game. He's not throwing the ball down the field a lot. It's a lot of short stuff.
Didn't he used to do that? Didn't he used to throw the ball down the field a lot?
He has an arm. He can do it. He's capable. Okay. But they've just decided that with the offensive line they have and the fact that they have like no wide receivers, that the best way to win here is have Daniel Jones not make mistakes, run it. And he's been really efficient doing that. And he's done what they've asked him to do really well. They just haven't asked him to do really difficult things based on how they're asking him to play. So, it's funny. I've actually said this and you'll laugh. I've said this on my Giants shows before. The Giants have to make sure that this season isn't the equivalent of the Knicks COVID year, where they play better than their record.
Okay.
They end up committing to too many of the guys on the roster. And then you find out, we overachieved. Oops.
But is Daniel Jones in that? Is he Julius Randle?
No. I'm not gonna do that to the young man. I love Daniel. He's a great kid. He's awesome.
Okay, I don't know. I get it.
He also, John, correct me if I'm wrong. He's not producing the way Randle was. The Knicks went as Randle went in that year. They limited what Daniel Jones has to do in order for them to win.
Yeah, and honestly, and this is not, I looked. In this conversation, Saquon Barkley is Julius Randle.
Yes.
Oh.
Leads the league in rushing, right?
Yep. Leads the league in rushing.
Depending on what Derrick Henry does tonight.
In terms of non-quarterbacks, he might be like an MVP candidate. Like if you take all the quarterbacks out of the mix.
Okay. Interesting.
So that's kind of where the Giants are. And I think the last 8 games, you're going to learn a lot because the schedule gets tougher. You get after the Lions this week, you get 4 straight division games. And my God, the NFC East is the best division in football. Who would have thought it? And the AFC East is really good too.
I was to say,
no argument. AFC East is also awesome. I think they're kind of neck and neck there for Andrew. Fair enough. No argument for me. But look, they have a good team. They're playing a very smart, well-played, mistake-free brand of football. And in an NFL where the talent in between these teams isn't all that different anymore, except for a few at the very top. If you don't beat yourself, you're going to win some games. And that's what the Giants have done a really good job of doing. And that's a credit to the players and the coaches for getting that done. But I think Joe Shane is going to have a real tough job after the season, man. Saquon's a free agent. Daniel Jones is a free agent. And those are 2 really important players. What do you do? What's the value and cost you put on those guys? I don't envy the decisions he's going to have to make. And hopefully the last 8 games will provide even more clarity because right now it's going to be hard not to bring them back based on how they've played and how much the team is winning.
This is the most amateurish question. If you had to answer right now, will the New York Giants win a playoff game?
I'm really confident they're going to play in a playoff game. It's going to be almost impossible for them not to make the playoffs. If they make the playoffs and they don't win the division, they're probably going to get Tampa Bay in the first round, maybe a team out of the NFC West. I think it's a coin flip. I think in this NFL, sure. I think once you start getting into the second round, I think it's going to get tougher.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think given where the NFL is now, and Andrew knows this, like John, there's 3 really good teams. Then you have like 14 teams that anyone can beat each other on any given Sunday. Okay. And that's kind of where we're at.
Okay. Look no further than the playoffs last year. In the second round, the divisional round, all 4 games were 1 possession. Oh, excuse me. The last 7 playoff games were all 1 possession games. You know, it was field goals, and then that Chiefs Bills game in overtime. You know, and then the Super Bowl was a 3-point game.
All right. This is exciting. I'll start. You know what? I'm going to commit. I'm going to make a commitment. Start watching New York football. Jets, Giants, both of them.
Were you a Giants fan growing up, John? Who'd you root for?
You didn't know that? I was a Steeler fan.
Oh, you're a Steeler guy. That's right. I didn't know that. Well, you don't want to watch them this year.
No, I don't.
Talk about bad quarterback play.
They just drafted this kid. He already stinks, I guess.
I think it's okay.
He's okay is a very nice compliment. He's
thrown a lot of interceptions.
Yes. Which is like to Schmeelk's point, the mistake freeness of the Giants is what's made them most impressive. They're winning a lot of close games. It's because they never give the other team the ball. And outside of one game, it's similar to the Jets' plan and solution too. It's why this Sunday against the Patriots, Zach Wilson has one more chance to show me that he can beat the Patriots and just not,
Are you out? Are you out?
I'm not out on him. I don't think he will ever win the Jets a game. I think he just has to not lose it. That last drive against the Bills, it was very much don't let him throw the ball more than 5 yards and I will be okay. And they ran the ball down their throat and won.
Andrew, cover your ears. John, does Zach Wilson stink?
He does.
Right now, he stinks.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm close to that too. Believe me, I was ready to.
Talent, John. He could become good, but right now he is not a very good NFL quarterback.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Now, here, John. Bob, this is how I'll sum up you with the Giants. They've played 9 games. 8 have been 1-score games. The Giants are 7-1 in those games.
Wow. Yeah.
So it has been on a razor's edge the whole year. And, these games late can go either way. They've had 3 games against good teams where they've been down 2 scores in the fourth quarter and they've come back and won. So, that's why it's such a tough evaluation, right? Because, if you win a lot of 1-score games one year, that doesn't mean you're going to do it the next year. So that's why I think the last 8 games is going to be really important in figuring out exactly what this team is.
Long term, I'd agree. Like you are right about the offseason. But as far as like a one single season, the Bengals won, that's the formula. They just won a bunch of close games last year. And then it was a 1-score game against the Raiders, a 1-score game against the Titans, and a 1-score game against the Chiefs. And then they're in the Super Bowl. So that's why I'm crazy optimistic about what the Jets' chances could be, especially with the way the division is starting to break out. The
problem with the Jets and the Giants, they just don't score enough points.
You might not have to if you have the defense that the Jets do. And the way the Giants are playing, because they're ground and pound and they're not even just designing creative runs for Saquon. They're getting Daniel Jones involved in the design runs. Saquon's not just their leading rusher. He's their leading receiver. He leads the team in receptions.
Is he really?
He's 29 receptions. He leads the team in receptions right now.
Not receiving yards, but receptions, yes.
Yeah.
Who's the MVP? I don't even know.
Of the league?
Yeah.
I mean, it's Mahomes probably, right?
Probably Mahomes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shocking that,
I was about to say,
it's
not much has changed, I guess.
I'll tell you what, though, I think the coach of the year is going to be a great conversation between Saleh, Dable, the Vikings head coach, Sirianni, even. That's going to be a hell of a vote.
And I'd go McDaniel out of all of them.
Oh, and him too. That's right. No, I forgot about Mike McDaniel. That's a great point. Another guy, 100%.
Yeah. The Dolphins coach. The Dolphins have one of the best offenses. They're the new Chiefs. I'm not even kidding. They got Tyreek Hill.
I know. They have Tyreek Hill.
Tua, since that moment we thought he died, he came back and he's thrown 10 touchdowns and 0 interceptions.
Oh, wow.
He's undefeated in games that he has finished.
You've got me excited about the NFL, which I'm not going to watch the Packers and Titans. I'm going to turn on an NBA game after we get off of this.
Well, look, John, because the Jets and Giants are good, Twitter is shut down forever. So you're going to be able to take your Twitter time and dedicate it to
football.
Watching football.
There you go. Okay. Done and done. Yeah. John, in case anybody doesn't know, can you This was great. Can you let the folks at home know where to find you?
Yeah, I'm not doing like Knicks stuff anymore because I have 2 kids and a full-time job, and I just have no time, and I'm tired. I'm just so very tired.
Join the club.
But yeah, if you're Giant fans out there, check it out, man. Giants.com. I know people think, oh, team site, this must, propaganda, Wally Serbiak, all that stuff. And, but look, I think we really do good coverage. We have a live show every day from 12:30 to 1:30, and we take calls. We don't screen out negative calls. So like, you want to come up, you're pissed, give us a call, talk football with us Monday through Friday, every day, 12:30 to 1:30. We have Giants Huddle Podcast. Big Blue Kickoff Live is the name of the show. Giants.com, the Giants mobile app, and your favorite podcast platforms.
I was about to say, where do I go to tap into that from noon to, was it noon to 1:30?
12:30 to 1:30 every day. We have to kind of put it in between the Giants practice schedule, which is why it's a weird time.
Okay.
Yes, 12:30 to 1:30, Giants.com,
Giants.com. Okay.
Check it out. And then the Giants Huddle Podcast, that's just your basic, that's not live, that's your basic podcast, favorite podcast platforms. Search for Giants Huddle, man. We had just interviewed Greg Olsen, Fox's #1 analyst today. He's actually doing the Giants-Lions game on Sunday, believe it or not. So go check it out. Jersey guy, Greg Olsen from Wayne, born in Patterson.
The Giants are the main game this week?
Yes, they are. They have Burkhart and Olsen, believe it or not. And then they have them again on Thanksgiving when they played that Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboy game makes sense. I guess there's no other.
They're playing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving?
Yeah, they're the Thanksgiving game.
My wife's thrilled about that.
Yo, you're not happy?
My wife
has to work Thanksgiving
not happy about it at all.
Dolores is none too pleased that the Knicks are once again on Christmas.
Oh, I can only imagine. And look, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday too, so I'm not thrilled.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I love Thanksgiving. It's a great holiday, man. You get to stuff your face, eat, watch football. I mean, and you don't get disappointed by the Knicks. I mean, it checks every box.
That's fair. I'm a Christmas guy, and I should like when the Knicks play on Christmas more, but there's like something about, I don't know. I need to be able to go right from the Knicks game to like just like relaxing, and it's not going to be that way for me, at least this year. I wish
the Knicks played on Christmas in a later window. I don't like the noon start. If they
I'd like that. Yeah, I'd like that.
5, like you finish dinner and you're so tired at the end of the day, you just want to sit down and like the kids playing with toys or they're in bed and you got nothing else to do. Then you can pop the Knicks on. That's fine.
I like that.
Noon, like if you think my kids let me watch a Knicks game at 12 o'clock on Christmas Day, there is no chance that's happening.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of like, you should not be doing what you're doing right now. You should be doing other things other than sitting on the couch and watching this basketball game.
And that's why Thanksgiving is awesome, because it's assumed that it's part of the holiday that you sit your fat butt on the couch and watch football. It's ingrained in the holiday.
It's ingrained.
Yeah.
Oh, John, you're the best. Everybody go check out Giants.com and what's the pod is Big Blue Huddle, right?
2, you got Giants Huddle Podcast and Big Blue Kickoff Live. Go check it out.
There you go. Okay. Awesome stuff, John. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.